The story begins where few cameras have ever dared to look. The quiet corners of a home filled with laughter, noise, half-finished cups of tea, and memories tucked into every shelf. To the world, Bradley has always been the unstoppable showman, the man whose smile could brighten the dullest studio, whose timing was sharper than any buzzer, and whose jokes could pull even the most stone-faced contestants into giggles. But as every performer knows, even the brightest lights cast shadows, and now those shadows have finally stepped into view. Donna Derby, Bradley's partner in every sense of the word, his companion, his anchor, his equal, has carried a truth heavier than anyone realized, a truth she never wanted to share, but one she could no longer keep hidden. For years, people saw Bradley's jokes, the cheeky grin, the quick wit, the spark that he carried effortlessly wherever he went. What nobody saw was what Donna saw every morning, every evening, and every quiet moment in between. A man who was doing everything in his power to keep giving the world joy, even on days when joy felt like something he had to chase. Donna has always been a private person, graceful, composed, warm, and protective. Protective of her home, her family, and especially of Bradley. She's known for her elegance, but those who know her best will tell you her real strength sits beneath that smile. And for a long time, she used that strength to carry a secret that weighed on her heart. Bradley had been facing a personal struggle, one that left him drained, tired, and not quite himself. Not something dramatic or life-threatening, but something that made everyday tasks feel heavier than they used to. The kind of struggle that slowly chips away at energy, confidence, and the rhythm of life. Something that doesn't always come with easy answers. At first, it was just fatigue, the kind anyone might shrug off after a long day. Then it became more persistent, moments where he'd lose his balance a bit, times where his energy dipped halfway through work, and evenings where he'd flop onto the sofa and stay there for hours, unable to get up without a deep breath. Donna noticed everything. She always did. There were mornings where she'd watch him sit at the edge of the bed trying to gather strength for the day. There were afternoons where filming left him so drained that he'd walk through the door looking like he'd run a marathon. And there were nights where she could hear faint sighs from the hallway, the kind of sighs a person makes only when trying not to worry anyone else. Still, Bradley pushed on, because that's who he was. He loved his work, his fans, his crew, and the sense of purpose that came with making people smile. He could crack a joke in his sleep. He could make Donna laugh even on days when she was the one worrying herself into knots. And he could bring light into the room even when he felt dim on the inside. But as the months went on, the strain began to show. Even Bradley, the human battery pack, the walking burst of energy, had limits he finally had to acknowledge. Donna kept everything quiet as long as she could. She shielded him from questions, from gossip, from speculation. She became his unofficial manager, nurse, assistant, and comedian-in-chief, trying to keep their home as normal and cheerful as possible. Still, the truth lingered between them like a quiet visitor who refused to leave. Eventually, as Bradley's energy dipped lower and his exhaustion grew stronger, both Donna and their son Barney stepped in fully. Together they created a routine. Gentle mornings, easier filming schedules, more breaks, and evenings filled with comfort rather than obligation. Friends who visited the family described the house as a mix of warmth and concern, laughter echoing from the living room one moment, silence and whispered check-ins the next. They saw a family that relied on each other, not out of fear, but out of love. Barney, in particular, became one of Bradley's biggest supporters. He'd help his dad with errands, keep the mood light, and make sure he didn't overdo it. The two already had a strong bond, but this chapter strengthened it in unexpected, heartfelt ways. Their usual banter remained, playful arguments, silly jokes, and the kind of father-son teasing that felt like its own language. But beneath the humor was a deeper layer of care. Through all of this, Donna kept hoping things would return to normal. Some days they did. Bursts of the old Bradley would shine through, full of energy and mischief. Other days were slower, quieter. But the worry never left her completely. Finally, after months of juggling emotions and responsibilities, she reached a point where silence felt heavier than truth. She realized that the people who admired Bradley, the fans who had grown up watching him, the families who tuned in together, and the countless viewers who relied on his humor to brighten their evenings, deserved to know he was facing something difficult. Not because the world was entitled to his private life, but because people cared. And their support, she knew, could lift him in ways she alone could not. So she chose to speak. Not dramatically, not fearfully, just honestly. She shared that Bradley had been feeling unwell for quite some time, that he had been quieter behind the scenes than most realized, and that his energy had been fluctuating. She didn't make bold statements or dramatic claims, just the truth of a family going through a challenging season. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Fans rallied behind him with messages of warmth, encouragement, and gratitude. People flooded social media with stories of how Bradley made them laugh through tough times, how his jokes helped them escape stress, and how his kindness on TV made them feel connected even from afar. They reassured Donna that she had done the right thing. They reminded Bradley that he didn't need to carry the world on his shoulders. And suddenly, the burden didn't feel so heavy anymore. Bradley himself, despite everything, stayed as determined as ever. He continued following the guidance of his doctors, listening to his family, pacing himself, and focusing on recovery. His sense of humor, thankfully, didn't go anywhere. Even on low-energy days, he'd crack jokes about moving slower than a sloth or needing more naps than a toddler. Donna would roll her eyes playfully, Barney would laugh, and the house would feel warm again. Though the journey ahead remains uncertain, Donna believes in Bradley wholeheartedly. She believes in his strength, his resilience, and his incomparable spirit. She believes in the love that surrounds him, not just from their family, but from millions of people who admire him. And most of all, she believes that this chapter, as difficult as it has been, will eventually become part of a bigger story of growth, courage, and connection. This is more than a story of struggle. It's a story of support, of family, of love that chooses to stay, about the moments behind the scenes that shape the people we think we know so well. And for anyone who has ever admired Bradley's work, this chapter offers something rare, a glimpse into the strength it takes to make others smile. He has brightened countless lives. Now it's time for people to brighten his. And so, as Donna says, the message is simple. We're moving forward, we're staying hopeful, and we're grateful for every bit of love that finds its way to our door.